Jean Stapleton was born on January 19, 1923 in New York City. Her mom, Marie, sang opera for a living, and her dad worked in advertising. Growing up, Jean was surrounded by music and art, which helped her fall in love with acting instead of just wanting to be famous. She studied drama at the American Repertory Theater and then trained at the famous Actors Studio, where she learned different ways to act and perform. Jean started her career on stage. People noticed she was really good at showing emotions. In her acting, during the 1950s and 1960s, she did lots of plays on Broadway and in smaller theaters, and critics loved her work even before most people knew who she was. Theater was what she loved most, and she kept doing plays even after she became a TV star. People always said her acting felt real and honest, which would later make her most famous character so special. She started doing TV work with small parts. On shows like Playhouse 90, The Defenders, and Dr. Kildare, these roles showed she could play different kinds of characters. But nobody knew yet how big of an impact she was about to make. That all changed in 1971 when she got cast as Edith Bunker on Norman Lear's groundbreaking sitcom, All in the Family, playing Edith. Jean created one of the most memorable characters ever on television. At first, Edith seemed simple, quiet, and like she just went along with everything. Her loud, opinionated husband, Archie Bunker, said Archie was played by Carol O'Connor. But Jean made Edith warm, kind, and quietly strong. Through small movements, pauses, and her famously sweet voice, Jean showed that Edith was actually the heart of the show. She wasn't dumb, she was caring. She wasn't weak, she was tough in her own way. Jean worked hard behind the scenes with the writers and producers to make sure Edith was treated with respect, even when the jokes were tough. Her performance won her 3 Emmy Awards and 2 Golden Globe Awards, and everyone loved her. Even more importantly, Edith became a symbol of kindness and understanding during a time when American TV was dealing with serious topics like racism, sexism, war, and fights between different generations. Even though All in the Family was hugely successful, Jean never let fame change who she was. She didn't like all the celebrity attention and often said no to interviews and public events. When the show ended in 1979 and then continued as Archie Bunker's place, Jean made the hard choice to leave because she felt Edith's story was complete. Her character was written off the show in one of the most emotional episodes ever, where Edith dies and Archie is heartbroken. The episode showed Jean's belief that stories should be honest, even when they're sad. After leaving the series, Jean went back to what she loved most: theater, TV movies, and carefully chosen acting roles. She appeared in well-respected TV movies, like Eleanor, First Lady of the World, where she played Eleanor Roosevelt, and The People vs. Jean Harris. She also did voice work for animated movies, including Disney's Pocahontas, showing she could still do great work as she got older, in the final years of her amazing career. Jean Stapleton kept choosing roles that showed her warmth, depth, and quiet power as an actress. In May 2000, she appeared on the popular TV series Touched by an Angel in a special Mother's Day episode. Jean played an angel named Emma, a gentle, caring character sent to help and comfort a woman named Celine, who was having a hard time taking care of her late best friend's elderly mother. With her trademark sincerity and grace, Jean made the character feel real and touching, reminding viewers why she had always been seen as one of TV's most heartfelt performers. Her performance didn't need big, flashy moments. Instead, it glowed with quiet understanding, empathy, and a deep sense of real emotion, qualities that had been part of her acting for decades. Jean's last time on screen came soon after in 2001 in a TV movie based on a true story called Like Mother, Like Son: The Strange Story of Sante and Kenny Kimes. In this creepy, true crime drama, she played Irene Silverman, appearing opposite Mary Tyler Moore, who played the unsettling role of convicted criminal Sante Kimes. even though the story was dark and disturbing. Jean once again brought depth and realness to her character, making the film feel more serious and emotional. Even in her final film role, she showed her ability to make any project better through careful, detailed performance, proving that her talent stayed strong all the way to the end. But Jean's goodbye to acting didn't happen on a film set. It happened where her love for performing had always been strongest: the theater. Her final acting role was on stage in Horton Foote's The Carpetbagger's Children, performed at Lincoln Center in New York on March 7, 2002. This choice made perfect sense. Foote's work, known for its humanity, restraint, and emotional honesty, matched perfectly with Jean's own beliefs about acting. Appearing before a live audience one last time, she ended her career not with big fanfare, but with the quiet dignity and emotional truth that had always been part of her work. Beyond her acting career, Jean Stapleton was deeply involved in social and political causes. She spoke up for women's rights, civil rights, and the arts, serving on boards and supporting organizations dedicated to public broadcasting and cultural education. She strongly believed in the power of storytelling to help people understand and care about each other, values that matched closely with the groundbreaking themes of All in the Family. For more than 25 years, Jean Stapleton's personal life was centered around a deep, lasting partnership with her husband, William Puch, a man whose love of theater matched her own passion for acting. The two got married in 1957, beginning a marriage that would last until Puch's sudden death in 1983, and would shape not only Jean's family life, but also how she lived her professional life. Together, they built a home based on creativity, discipline, and love for storytelling, raising two children who would go on to have impressive careers of their own: John Puch, who became a talented actor, writer, and director, and Pamela Puch, who became a respected television producer. William Puch was far more than just a supportive husband. He was a tireless champion of live theater. For 3 decades, he was the guiding force behind Totem Pole Playhouse, a beloved summer theater located in Caledonia State Park in Fayetteville, Pennsylvania. Under his leadership, the theater became a vibrant cultural center, drawing audiences who wanted thoughtful, spirited performances. Jean Stapleton wasn't just an occasional visitor to this world. She was an active participant. Despite her growing fame on television, she came back regularly to Totem Pole Playhouse, performing with the resident company and showing her lifelong commitment to the stage. For Jean, theater wasn't just a job, it was a calling, and the Playhouse represented a shared dream she and her husband built year after year. The depth of Jean's dedication to both her husband and her art was never clearer than on the night tragedy struck. In 1983, William Puch had a fatal heart attack while in Syracuse during the run of a touring production. The news was devastating, a loss that could have understandably silenced her, even temporarily. Yet, in a moment that has since become a symbol of her extraordinary professionalism and inner strength, Jean made an astonishing decision. Despite her grief, she insisted on going on stage and performing that very night. It wasn't an act of denial, but of devotion to the audience, to the theater they had both loved so deeply, and perhaps to her husband himself. For decades, Jean Stapleton was impossible to separate in people's minds from Edith Bunker, the tender-hearted, soft-spoken wife she played on All in the Family. Her chemistry with Carol O'Connor was so natural, so deeply felt, that many viewers assumed their bond was just as strong off-screen. Yet, in her final interviews, Jean gently but clearly revealed a more complicated truth. While she respected O'Connor greatly as an artist, their relationship was based on professionalism rather than deep personal friendship. "I loved working with Carol," Jean once said. "But people often mistake great acting for a great personal friendship." Her words weren't dismissive, and they weren't cold. Instead, They showed the thoughtful clarity of a woman who understood the difference between working together creatively and being emotionally close in private. Jean explained that the raw intensity of All in the Family, its political arguments, its emotional confrontations, its cultural weight required discipline and boundaries. She admired O'Connor's dedication, his seriousness, and his command of the material. But she never pretended that their bond was like the warm, family-like connection audiences wanted to believe in. Jean's final reflections confirmed what many people in the industry had quietly understood for years: the magic between Edith and Archie Bunker was the result of two expert professionals honoring the work above all else. "What you saw on screen," she said, "was our commitment to telling the truth of those characters." That truth, she implied, didn't require off-camera closeness, only mutual respect and trust. When Carol O'Connor passed away in 2001, the fact that Jean Stapleton didn't attend his funeral surprised fans and led to speculation. Too many, it seemed. Impossible to imagine that Edith Bunker wouldn't be there to say goodbye to Archie. Yet Jean later addressed this decision with her usual grace and honesty, offering insight that was both deeply personal and quietly revealing. "I grieved in my own way," she explained. "I didn't feel the need to do it publicly." Jean had always been intensely private, especially later in life, staying away from Hollywood attention and choosing a quieter life far from the spotlight. For her, mourning wasn't a performance, and it wasn't something she had to do because of public expectations. She believed remembrance could be just as meaningful, perhaps even more so, when done in private. Jean also said that attending the funeral would have inevitably turned the moment into a symbolic reunion of Archie and Edith, overshadowing O'Connor's life as a man, husband, and father. That day wasn't about the characters, she said. It was about Carol. By stepping away, she felt she was honoring him more honestly, refusing to let fiction overshadow reality. Her absence, rather than showing she didn't care, highlighted a deep respect for boundaries between art and life, between public myths and private truth. Jean understood that sometimes the most sincere goodbye is the one given quietly, away from cameras and expectations. Jean Stapleton's final interview didn't tear down the legacy of All in the Family. Instead, it made it richer by speaking plainly. She reminded audiences that great art doesn't require personal closeness, only integrity, empathy, and discipline. "We did our jobs," she said simply, "and we did them well." In an industry built on illusion, Jean's honesty was a final gift. She allowed fans to see her not as Edith Bunker, but as a thoughtful woman who valued privacy, truth, and emotional authenticity. And in doing so, she confirmed what many had long suspected, that behind one of television's most beloved marriages stood two actors bound not by sentimentality, but by respect. That perhaps was the secret to its enduring power. Jean passed away quietly of natural causes on May 31, 2013, in New York City, the place that had long been both her home and the spiritual center of her artistic life. She was 90 years old, and with her passing, the entertainment world lost not just a beloved actress, but a woman whose talent, warmth, and integrity had shaped generations of audiences, in a rare and deeply symbolic gesture of respect. Broadway dimmed its marquee lights for one full minute on June 5, 2013. Solemn pause that spoke volumes about the profound impact she had made on American theater and culture. Those glowing lights, which had so often celebrated opening nights and standing ovations, fell silent in tribute to a performer whose career bridged stage and screen with grace and purpose.